Which is better, a noise gate or noise reduction? In this video, we're going to use two great microphones to try and answer that question. This video is not sponsored, and I bought both of the microphones in this video myself. I do have Amazon affiliate links in the description if you're looking to pick up either of these mics and you'd like to support this channel. Okay, so let me start by saying that the answer to the question is really that neither a noise gate or noise suppression is inherently better. They're both helpful tools, but they work differently, very differently. So we'll get into that in just a moment. The real question is, which one is a better option for your specific scenario? And that's what this video is really about. We'll start by defining how each of them work, and then we'll do some testing in a couple of common use cases to see which one might be best for your scenario. Let me also just preface by saying that we are focusing on the use of these two types of DSP in a live scenario. If you're recording your audio and doing post-processing, the answer to the question may be different. In fact, I'll just tell you right now that in my opinion, if you're recording something like a podcast or a voiceover for a video and you've got some background noise, then when you're doing your post-processing, in my opinion, noise reduction is generally going to give you a better result than a noise gate. I personally never use a noise gate on post-processed audio, but noise reduction for post-processing really is a different video. So let's get back to what we're talking about in this video. A noise gate is an all or nothing type of processing. Some noise gates give you more control than others, meaning some provide more parameters that you can control than others, but they all do the same thing. You set a threshold for the gate, and then any sound level that is below your threshold is attenuated. Some noise gates will let you control how much the sound below the threshold is attenuated, and more simple gates basically just mute it altogether. They cut out everything that's below the threshold. As soon as the gate detects a sound level above your threshold, the gate is open and all sound passes through unprocessed. So it can kind of act like an automatic mute for you if there's a quiet noise in your space that you don't want coming through your microphone while you're not talking. But as soon as you start talking, both your voice and the noise will pass through. The PodMic USB here has a noise gate in its built-in DSP. Now, noise reduction is very different. It's not all or nothing like a noise gate. Noise reduction or noise suppression attempts to identify the sounds that are noise, then separate them from the dialogue that it's picking up and attenuate the signals that are identified as noise, leaving the dialogue as untouched as possible while suppressing that noise. Noise reduction tools can be very simple or fairly complex, and there are even AI-based noise reduction tools coming out now. I use one myself, the Clear plugin by Supertone, to process the audio for some of my content. Noise reduction plugins and standalone tools often give you control over how much processing to apply or how much you want to attenuate the noise, and the more you push that processing, generally the more it impacts the quality of the dialogue. Okay, so with the basic definitions out of the way, let's talk about which one might be the better choice in a given scenario. I'm going to use a common work from home scenario here to demonstrate both, but the same is going to apply for streaming, gaming, other use cases where you might be using a microphone that has built-in DSP or software that has the option to use DSP in your mix or in the routing of your audio. So for the first scenario, let's say that my room is quiet, just like it is right now. There's no significant background noise, but I have a conference speaker on my desk that I use for my virtual calls because I don't want to wear headphones all day. So my primary concern here is that I don't want the audio from the meeting coming back into my microphone and causing an echo in the meeting for everybody else. Let's hear how these two mics perform in this scenario. All right, we're starting with the MV7 Plus here. The MV7 Plus is recording into my computer into Audacity. I have the DSP features turned on, including the real-time denoiser. So this is noise reduction. This is my actual work from home desk setup. I have a Bluetooth speaker right in front of me in between my two monitors, pointed right at basically the back of my microphone. And this is exactly how my microphone would normally be mounted. So let's play some meeting sounds and see what it picks up when I am not muted. Now, this is the volume that I would normally have my speaker at in terms of listening to a conference call. So my microphone's not muted. Here's how much of the dialogue coming from my speaker it's picking up. So if I were to not mute myself in a meeting like this, that is how much of the sound would be getting back into the MV7 Plus, even with the denoise feature turned on. Now this is the PodMic USB, and I do have the DSP all turned on, including the noise gate, with a fairly aggressive threshold and settings so that you can really hear when it is turned on versus letting all the audio pass through. Whenever I stop talking, it's basically going to be cutting out all the background noise or the ambient sound of the room. And then when I start talking, it will pick back up and let everything through. However, if you do set noise gates too aggressive, they can actually cut off the first little bit of something that you say after being quiet. So now our meeting audio is playing, and if I'm talking, you might be able to hear a little bit of that background noise coming through. But if I stop talking and let the others in the meeting talk, you should be hearing either completely nothing or very, very little. So in a situation like that, the noise reduction in the MV7 Plus didn't really do anything, but here's the thing. Why should it do anything? After all, it's trying to separate dialogue from other sounds, and the background noise in this case is also dialogue, so it's really not going to do anything to suppress those meeting sounds. I would basically have to make sure that my mic is muted at all times unless I'm talking in order to make sure none of that meeting dialogue is getting back into the microphone. But the noise gate in the PodMic USB, on the other hand, attenuated those meeting sounds when I wasn't talking because they were below the threshold. I have the speaker volume set low enough that sound is below the threshold I set in the PodMic USB. So as soon as I stop talking, the gate starts to attenuate the sound coming from the speaker, and it's kind of like an automatic mute. Of course, I still want to mute myself if I'm not talking for a long period of time, because that's just the polite thing to do, especially on larger conference calls. But now let's test them again, and this time, there is going to be some background noise coming from my space, the room that I'm in. We'll turn on some computer fan noise here and go back to our call. Now, instead of the meeting sound being the primary thing I'm worried about, I'm now worried about the fan noise coming from my computer that is down underneath my desk. So I have a source of fan noise playing on my phone right now, positioned down where my computer tower is. And this is what the MV7 is doing for the dialogue. So you may hear a little bit more of a processed sound in the dialogue because the noise reduction is now identifying background noise and suppressing it, and that will have a little bit of impact on the quality of the dialogue. But with a consistent source of noise like this is what the MV7 Plus would sound like, even if I am not muted. And then when I start talking again and my voice comes back in, here's what that sounds like. And when I stop talking and then start talking again. So that is how noise reduction works in terms of minimizing background noise when you start and stop talking. Let me know what you hear there. Now here's what happens with the fan noise and the noise gate on the PodMic USB. You should be able to hear the fan noise while I'm talking because there is nothing that is going to suppress that fan noise while I'm talking. Everything is going to come through the microphone when that gate is open, but when I stop, if I have the noise gate set correctly for the right threshold based on the level of that noise, then you should basically suddenly hear nothing. Or it should become very, very quiet when I stop. And if you start and stop talking a lot, like with the little breaks in between what you say, that's going to sound a little bit weird with a source of noise like this and a noise gate. So now in this case, the noise reduction that's built into the MV7 Plus is giving us a better result because the sound, the background noise is not dialogue and it's more consistent. It's the same sound throughout. It's just a noise that is not a person talking. Now, if the fan noise was very quiet, then the noise gate would probably still be okay here. But with a moderate or louder source of consistent background noise that is not dialogue, noise reduction, in my opinion at least, is the better choice. So what if you don't have a microphone like these with built-in DSP that enable you to address the noise issue that you have in your environment, whatever your noise issue is? Well, it really depends on your microphone setup that you have and the software that you might be using. Some microphones, like the Elgato Wave 3, which is a USB condenser microphone, include free mixing software that allows you to add signal processing, which is handled by your computer, not retained in the microphone like it is with these. But it gives you the option of adding either a noise gate or noise reduction at that stage in the software. And if you're streaming or gaming and using software like OBS to handle your audio input processing, then you can add plugins to your signal there as well. And then you've also got physical devices like the Rodecaster Pro 2 and Rodecaster Duo or Streamer X they also have noise gates built into them. The hardware you're using might also have an option for doing some live processing. If you're not in a live scenario and you're going to be recording your audio and then processing it in post, noise reduction in post is a whole other conversation which deserves its own video. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in a video on noise reduction tools for recorded audio. So ultimately, between a noise gate and noise reduction, one is not always better than the other. It really depends on your scenario, but hopefully this video helped to put them in kind of general categories for you. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and don't forget to subscribe to the Semi-Pro Tech and Gear channel. While you're here, why don't you check out one of these other videos? I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thanks everybody. See you next time.